So as I mentioned in the email, I wanted to record these video just in case you want to see it again, or if we have someone that couldn't make it this afternoon. So in this case, Tina, if she can, she wants to she wants to look at the video, she can do it later. So that's why I'm recording. And um, so the purpose of the video, in addition to do the review, was to check on you, see how are you doing in terms of the material for the class and also in terms of the project. So I've been getting some increase from students who are working on the project, but I don't know if anybody, before we get into the review, if I know I have a meeting with Ben Cat after the review. But I just want to encourage you to send me an email and request a Zoom meeting if you need to. Um, if you have questions about the project or if you have questions about anything else, feel free to email me and we can find a time to discuss. Like I did this morning with Monica. Um, So for today, a week from today, we're gonna have our second exam. It's gonna be a simulation exam. Um, so the idea is basically to explain the format. So and also what you should expect in terms of the skills that you need to know for the exam on Tuesday. So far, I think we're gonna have 4 new um, assignments after our first exam, our first simulation exam. We have Lab 6, Lab 7. So Lab 6 was on the use of sets to define resources and to define their processing times. So that was Lab 6. Lab 7 was in how to use arrival schedules. And I know there were some questions because I think the latest version of Arena is not showing up the module that was there to do the graphical interface, or the graphical interface to do the schedules. So that's no longer there, but they provide a different tool. I think it's more simple in the sense that you just need to know how many time periods you will have a certain average of arrivals. So for example, if you know that you are expecting 4 arrivals per hour from 10 to 6, then you can count the number of hours and then you can input that number of hours in which you are going to observe that number of arrivals per hour in the first column. Then in the second column, you will put the average number of arrivals. So from 10 to 6, that'll be 8 hours. So you will have 8 on the first space, and then you will have 4, which is the number of arrivals that you would expect per time period. And then you continue that process. So in the lab, I think I gave you an exercise that has three different time periods in which you observe um, different arrivals or a different average in terms of the arrivals. So for the purpose of those examples, then you will have 3 rows in which you are going to identify. In the first column, you're gonna tell me how many time periods. So if for the first group of time periods, there are 8 time periods in which you're going to observe 4 arrivals per hour. That first number is going to be 8. The second number is going to be 4. Then you move to the second group of time periods in which the arrival process will be higher or lower. So let's say it is 6 arrivals per hour for 10 time periods. So then you go in the first space, you're going to put 10, which is the number of time periods that you're going to observe that average number of arrivals, 6 arrivals per hour, and then you're going to put 6 on the next space. So I think it will be better for me to just show you with the with Arena. So let me do that. Let me open Arena, and then I will share the screen. Okay, so this is Arena. And let's say I want to define a new schedule for the arrival process. So this is, so my arrival process will be something like this. So from 12, let's say from 10 a.m. to 10, let's say to 8 p.m. we have 4 arrivals per hour, and then increase the size. And then we have from 8 p.m. to, let's say, 1 a.m. we have 6 arrivals per hour. And then we have from 1 a.m. to 10 a.m. 8 arrivals per hour. Okay, so let's say that's the arrivals that you will serve per time period. So in this case, we have 3 different groups. We have 3 groups. One starts from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., in which you are going to observe 4 arrivals per hour. Then the next one, it goes from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., 6 arrivals per hour. And then 1 a.m. to 10 a.m., we have 8 arrivals per hour. So the first thing you have to do is to select what time you're going to use in your model as time 0, right? Because everything else that you set up in your model has to be aligned with that time 0. So in my case, I'm going to choose 10 a.m. as time 0 for my model. Okay, so I'm going to start with 10 a.m. So from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. we have 10 hours, right? So let me define my arrival schedule. So I'm going to go to schedule here. I'm going to provide a name. So I'm going to name this, arrival schedule. And then this is going to be an arrival schedule in which my time units are going to be hours, and the scale factor is going to be 1. So now I had to specify the durations, right? So in this case, the value actually is the average number of arrivals. So in our case, this is going to be 4 for the first one. And for the duration, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., those are 10 hours. Okay, so I'm going to input 10. Then for the next group, we have from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. Those are 5 hours. And then we have 6 arrivals per hour. So my time or value is going to be 6. And then the duration is 5. And then finally, for the last one, this is going to be 8. And this is going to be for 9 hours. So in total, we have 24 hours. And that's how you define your your arrival schedule. Now, when you go to the implementation of that in the create block, you have to add a create block, double click here, and then you have to specify how are the arrivals model. Is it going to be with a distribution? Is it going to be using an exponential? In this case, it's going to be a schedule, and the name should show up, and that's how this is implemented. Okay, so I hope that can help in terms of clarifying some of the doubts you might have about the arrival schedules. For the capacity schedules for the resource, which is lab number 8, it's the same idea. The only difference is that when you define the schedule, instead of being an arrival schedule, you had to specify that it's a capacity schedule. Okay, so for resources, that's a capacity schedule. For arrivals, or for the arrival process, is going to be an arrival type, which is what we did in this example. Okay. Any questions? Feel free to ask me questions if you have any questions, or you can send me a, yes, go.
Professor, one more doubt.
Yeah.
When we are giving resource schedules, we will be adding expression as well if only if that process is taking all resources, right? Or how
Yeah,
it
so the good question. So the question is, once you have defined your schedule for the resource, right? Then so let's say you have a process block, you will only input, or you're gonna associate that schedule only when needed, where it's needed. So in the resource option, when you define, let's say I define a machine here. So this is a CZ layer release. I'm gonna call this machine 1, or machines. And then I have follows a triangular distribution in minutes. So now that resource is going to be defined here in my when you click in the resource module. If you want to associate that schedule to your resource, then you're going to have to define that this is going to be based on a schedule, and you have to find the name of the schedule. Obviously, in this case, since I have not defined a capacity schedule, there's no options here. But let me do that. Let me define. This is a capacity, so this is machine schedule. And what you're gonna see here is you're going to define for a specific station if you're gonna be increasing or decreasing the number of machines that you're gonna have for that station during the day. Then that's when you use this schedule option. So let's say that I have a station that has these machines, and I want to increase and decrease the number of machines that I have throughout the day. So let's say, let me use the same time periods here. So the idea now is, since I am expecting less arrivals, I'm going to say, from 10 to 8 p.m., I'm gonna have only one machine. Then from 8 to 1 a.m., I'm gonna have 2. And then from 1 to 10 a.m., I'm gonna have 3. So now I can define a schedule. I'm sorry, this should be 3. So now I can define a schedule for my machine. So it's a capacity schedule. It's gonna be defined in terms of hours, and the value is going to be the number of machines. So since I'm using 10 a.m. for my arrival schedule as time 0, then I'm doing the same thing for this schedule. Okay, that has to be consistent. I cannot choose 8 p.m. as time 0. What that means is that if I use 10 a.m. for my first row in the model, in terms of the arrival schedules, I have to use 10 a.m. also as my first row. And everything else has to be consistent. So I'm using 10 a.m. and this is gonna be for 10 time periods. Then for the next one is gonna be 2 machines for 5 hours, and then 3 machines for 9 hours. So when I go to the process now, I have named my resource. If I want to change my capacity, I have to go to the resource module, tell the model, you know, this is gonna be based on schedule, and the name of the schedule is that machine schedule that I just defined. So that's in terms of the schedule for the machines or for the resources. What you're gonna see in the next and the last exercise, so the last lab, you are going to modify this option here that is called failures. That's gonna be the last technique that you are going to learn as part of this class. So how do you model failures in your resources? Things like machine failure, and or if you have an operator that is taking a break, you can also model that with the failures. Did that answer your question, Monica, or is, I don't know if I went the wrong direction?
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I'm having doubts on lab 8. In the lab 8, there
Mm-hmm.
is one point where one type of part will go to one type of machine, whereas the second machine can handle both
Okay.
parts.
Okay.
So
Yes. So
there, I will be keeping arrival schedules, but the time. The processing time uh, is my doubt actually.
okay. So yes, I remember that now. So
Yes.
the way you approach that problem is the following. So you are going to split the entities at some
Yeah.
point. Some parts will
Yes.
go to one machine, the other parts can go to either one, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you still need a process block, okay? So you'll
Yeah.
have 2 process block. This one is not connected here. Um, so let's say this first branch here is where the parts only can, these parts can only be served by one type of machine. So in
Yes.
this process, you are going to define this resource as you normally do.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is resource 1, and this is gonna be managing these parts. Now, when you go here to this other branch, you're seeing the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, here is where you will need to use a set to define
Okay.
your resource. What that means is, instead of using the resource by itself, you have to define a set, and that set is going to contain both machines, machine 1, machine 2.
Okay. I got it, Professor. I
Okay.
got it.
So
Yeah.
what that means is when you go to that second branch, that part can seize any of the 2 machines. If that
Okay.
the first machine is available, the part can also seize that one.
Okay, got
Okay,
it. Yeah, yeah, fine.
awesome. Any other question? Good. So in terms of what's left, again, the the rest of the um, in terms of the modeling component for the class, the only thing that is missing or is left is this last uh, lab that is due on Thursday, and that's looking at machine failures. There's a typo here. And then the exam. Basically, the exam is going to be an exercise similar to what you have been doing for the past 4 labs. So starting from lab 6 to lab 9. So you could have a combination of using uh, schedules for the arrivals, schedules for the resources, um, resource sets, and also failures. So I'm not saying that you will have to do all of them in the exam, but you have to pay attention to those 4 techniques because some of them will be part of the exercise that you are going to be working on for the exam. For the exam, since you don't have a time limitation for a room like we had on campus, I'm going to give you 2 hours to work on the exam. Obviously, you're gonna be working from home. So the way it's gonna work is that you're gonna access the exam on Tuesday at the time for the class, which is 2 p.m. So the simulation exam, there's if you go to pages, you can see the screen. There's gonna be a link here. You'll be able to access that link, and then instead of being from 2 to 3:20, I'm gonna give you until 4 p.m. so you have enough time to upload your solution. So I want you to upload the model DOE file.
One more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
We have a class from 3:30, advanced optimization.
Oh, I see. So thank you for letting me know. So for those of you who are taking advanced optimization, then I will have to design an exam for an hour and a half, basically. So thank you for letting me know. I will look at that. Yes. So let's do that. Unless we can start out half an hour before, but then I don't have Tina here, and I'm not sure if she's gonna be seeing this video. So let's keep it like what we have here. So from 2 to 3:20, I'm just gonna make sure that you have an exam that you can work in an hour, and then you'll have the rest of the 30 minutes to complete the saving and uploading of your documents. So again, you will be able to access the exam link here on Tuesday, and you will download, you will work on the computer, and then you're gonna upload everything. So far, I haven't heard from any of you saying that you have limitations in terms of using Arena. So I'm feeling that that's not gonna be a problem for the exam. If you have a problem and on that sense, like you cannot or you don't have access to Arena, you have to let me know. But
Professor, we don't have problem in using Arena software, but regarding that 150 simulations error, what we were
yes,
receiving.
and I'm aware of that. Thank you for remind me. So yeah, I know that you're gonna have a 150 entities limitation. So The problem that you're going to be solving has to run in the student version. Okay, so actually in my computer at home, that's the version that I have. So when I design the exam and I build the solution, it's going to be a solution that you'll be able to run using the student version of the software. So yes, so if you end up having that type of error the day of the exam, it's because there's something wrong in the logic. Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
no problem. Any other question in
Uh,
terms of the exam? Yeah.
I have a question about the 50 entities instead in the project. So,
For the project,
yeah.
yes. So you say a question about the entities?
Yes, I got an error say that it exceeds the maximum entities of 100.
Okay, okay, I see. So I have a discussion this morning with Monica. She was looking something as an error similar to that. Um, so for how long are you running the model replication? For how many hours?
For the project is 14.5 hours.
Okay, so yes, so it's actually and good. Thank you for asking me that question. So um, so if you look at the data that was collected for that exercise, the data is mostly collected for a 2-hour period. I think it's hour and a half. So it's from 8 to 9:30. Most of the days that the data was collected. So, but I mean, even though it states that the store is open for 14 hours and a half, since the data that we are focusing on that 2-hour time period in which the number of people in the store is very high. So we want to focus on that time period. Okay. So what I'm saying is my recommendation is for you to run the simulation just for that 2-hour period.
Okay.
Okay. So from 8 to 10.
Okay.
If
I already like run for 2 hours and it can run it successfully.
so it's working for 2 hours or not?
Yes, it's
Okay.
working.
So yes, that's my recommendation. And that's what I suggest to everybody. Like focus the analysis on that 2-hour period and make your recommendation based on that time period.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. Okay, so if you have any other questions, the exam is in 1 week. Okay, so if you have any other questions this week or early next week, you feel free to ask me. You send me an email, and if it's something that we need to discuss, we can do a Zoom meeting. So I'll try to be available as much as possible to answer your questions. So you just need to let me know. Okay. So if there's no other questions, then the session is over. And I think I'm gonna stay with Venkat, that he has a specific question. So I will handle that question now. Let me stop the recording.
Thank you, Professor.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.